So welcome to Love Samantha Daniels Style. In this chat room, I answer relationship questions. Anything and everything you want to ask. I'm here for you. All you have to do is push the raise hand button, and I will call on you to ask your question. Now, if you push the raise hand button and your hand goes up, I'm assuming that you want to ask me a question. So only push it if you want to ask me a question. I'm going to start out with some of the emailed questions that have been emailed in this week. I'm going to have Tanya read them. I do see one hand up. GR8 German, do you have a question for me? So go ahead and pick up the mic and ask me the question. Push the talk button.
Hello, Samantha Daniels. How are you? Good morning. Tell me about my love life, or when will I get married or something, because I have nobody still come in my life. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm not a psychic. Actually, that's not what I do. I don't predict relationships, so you would need to ask me a question about a current relationship that you're in or some advice or something, but I can't predict for you. I don't do that. So while you're thinking about another question that you'd like to ask me, I'm going to take Sexy Doll's question. She says, what do you think about long-distance relationships? What I think about long-distance relationships is that they're hard. They're hard, they're tough, but they can be worth it. I've heard of a lot of circumstances where people end up with somebody who they've been dating long-term, and I've heard of other circumstances where it's just impossible. They're hard. You know, it's much easier to be dating somebody who lives in your hometown than to be dating somebody who lives far away from you, because obviously it's much easier to be able to see somebody on the fly than to have to make set times to see them. And also when you're dating someone long distance, if you get into a fight, it's really difficult to have make-up sex because they're really far away. So, I mean, that's the things to keep in mind. But if you met somebody and you really like somebody who's long distance, I guess there's probably a couple tips that I would give you of how to keep that going. First of all, you can't play a lot of games when you're long distance. The only thing that you have is the phone. So you don't want to get into fights over nonsense and play a lot of games. You really need to be like straight and to the point. Secondly, it's really important to have a lot of phone calls with the person who you're dating long distance, because if all you're doing is texting and emailing, that's not enough. You have to actually get on the phone and have conversations. And the third thing is that you have to, each and every time you see the long distance person, by the end of the time that you're hanging out with that person, you have to have a plan as to when you're going to see them next. Because the most frustrating thing with long distance is that you don't know when you're going to see that person. So you want to know, like even if it's 6 weeks from now, you need to know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel so you have something to look forward to. Because if you have a great weekend with this guy, spend the entire weekend with him, and it ends, and he doesn't say to you, oh, this is when I want to see you next, and you don't say it to him, then there's like this big question mark out there, and you don't really know, and it's very unsettling. So that's really what you need to keep in mind. So anybody else want to ask a question? What if the guy doesn't want to give his number out? What does that mean? I'd rather pick up the mic and ask me a question rather than typing it in. And in the meantime, while you are thinking of the questions, I'm going to have Tanya read one of our emailed in questions this week.
Hey Samantha, we have a question from Sonia from the UK, and she says, I'm hoping to meet a guy this month, so I have a date for Valentine's Day. I can't afford a matchmaker, so can you suggest some ways to meet someone new?
Well, Valentine's Day is fast approaching. We're really at the 2-week mark right now, 2 weeks away. You know, a lot of guys think of Valentine's Day as this Hallmark holiday that the card companies made up so that people buy candies and chocolates and cards and all those things. And interestingly, I heard on the news yesterday that Hershey, you know, the Hershey's company that makes all the chocolates, that they announced yesterday they're actually raising all of their prices 14% to their wholesalers, which means that they're charging their wholesalers more money, which means that if the wholesalers want to transfer it to the people, to us who are buying it, then they're going to charge us more money. So they said the example was is that if you're buying a Hershey bar for 65 cents where you live, that if they translate the increase in price over to us, we'll be spending 75 cents for a Hershey bar, which just goes up. And it's kind of ironic because it's right around Valentine's Day when tons of people are spending tons of money on chocolates and cards and flowers. So a lot of men, they don't really take Valentine's Day seriously. But I know as a woman, we women love Valentine's Day. We think it's super romantic. We're dying to have a date. We're dying to get chocolates or flowers or a card or anything. So I'm with you, Sonia. You're in the UK. I'm here in the US. I mean, everybody feels the same way. We want to be with somebody for Valentine's Day. So the thing is that you're out there looking to meet somebody in the next 2 weeks. First and foremost, you got to get out there and meet people. So when you're out, if you go out with a girlfriend or a group of girlfriends, don't just stand in a huddle and not let any guy come over. Like, make yourself open and available for guys to approach you, to say hello, and to start up a conversation. Secondly, you need to go places where you're going to meet men. I just got back from meeting with a new female client of mine, and we were talking about her hobbies and things she likes to do, and she said that she just joined a pottery class. And she doesn't have a lot of time. I said, why did you join a pottery class? Well, I thought I'd meet people. Well, I don't think that she's going to be meeting that many men in a pottery class. I said to her, you know, you need to think about that. Where are you going that you could meet men or you meet the opposite sex? You need to be spending your time appropriately so that you can actually optimize it and meet as many people as possible. So, you know, for example, this Sunday, at least in the U.S., for all of you in the U.S., it's the Super Bowl. It's a huge Super Bowl, the New England Patriots and the New York Giants. It's a huge Super Bowl. And you have to keep in mind that that's a great way of meeting men. So if you just go to any sports bar, definitely in this country, but probably in most of the world, you will find red-blooded, heterosexual men that you can interact with watching people. And like Jamie38 says, that's right. You could put together a Super Bowl party. You can send out an email just to friends who you know and say, getting a group of people together, we're all meeting at X, Y, and Z sports bar, and then you have a party. You know, you're socializing with people, seeing people, and that's what it is. You know, so you just do something. But I think that the Super Bowl is a great way to meet someone. I think watching any kind of basketball game or soccer game or anything, great way to meet men. There's speed dating all over the place. Go do that. Ask friends of yours, do they know somebody to set you up with? You just have to be proactive in trying to meet somebody so you can meet someone. That's what I say. So Jamie38, do you have any relationships, questions, or comments you want to share? Because you seem to be participating a lot in the chat, so I'd love to hear from you directly. Do you have a question for me, please?
Well, I do know it's happened to me. People get very intense over a relationship right here on Paltalk. And people can be anybody, lots of players.